Hey beloveds, welcome to Conscious Conversations with me, Yvette Ratshikhopha, an author, NLP practitioner, life coach, and entrepreneur. So I want to invite you to this conversation about the voice of your higher self versus the voice of trauma, right? A lot of times we carry this voice that we listen to, right? And this voice is saying negative things to us, like you're not going to make it, that you're not good enough, that you do not matter, that people are going to reject you, that things won't work out for you, that happiness is not for you. And we believe that voice, right, without questioning it. And that's because we've lived with that voice for so long that we think it's our actual, authentic voice, right? So what I'm inviting you to today is really questioning that voice, right? Because just because you hear that voice doesn't mean that it's your truth. And oftentimes that voice is not our own voice. It's the voice of the people that hurt us in our journey. It's the voice of the people that created trauma for us. It's the voice of the people that violated us. It's the voice of the person that rejected us. That could be in your childhood, your mom, your dad, your siblings. It could be someone from your community. It could be the people that bullied you in your journey. So what you need to learn to do is to differentiate which voice is yours, right? And which voice is the voice of trauma. Which voice is your higher voice of your higher self, and which voice is the voice of trauma, right? And when you start to do that, you'll start to notice that that voice wasn't even yours to believe it to begin with. So you never had to accept it, and you never had to believe it. All right. So that's the first thing, is that we carry this voice in our journey, and it's not necessarily our truth, but we think it is because we've carried it for so long. And this new thought that, that's not your voice, right? Whose voice is it, right? And once you do that, you can now invite a new voice to speak into your life. You can affirm that voice and allow it to be louder than the voice of trauma, right? And also, you will also know that you don't have to accept that voice that speaks negatively into you. You don't have to accept it as your truth. Just because it's speaking, just because you hear it, just because the thought comes up, doesn't mean that you have to believe it, right? And two things about the voice of trauma. Or the two things about the voice of trauma and the voice of your higher self. The voice of trauma creates fear. It keeps you from doing the things that you want. It keeps you stuck, right? It makes you feel helpless, defeated, and it makes you doubt yourself. The voice of your higher self, right? It empowers you. It gives you peace. It allows you to have faith. It causes you to believe in yourself. It's grounded in love and faith and not in fear, right? So learn to differentiate and follow the voice that feels good, because our higher self knows what feels good, knows our truth, right? Because we are divine and sacred beings. So when we know our truth, right, we learn to start to live in it. And if we can differentiate between which one is our truth, right, and which one is the voice of trauma. So the voice of your higher self will always give you peace. It will always empower you. And that's why a lot of times people aren't kind to themselves. And that not being kind to yourself is often not even your own voice. It's somebody else's voice who wasn't kind to you in your childhood. All right. So what I want you to do is notice that voice and notice which one is your higher self. And I'm going to share with you a few questions that you can ask yourself in order to assist yourself in differentiating and creating a new truth for yourself that will actually empower you, right? So question that voice is the first step. Question if it's true, right? And the next thing is that, what new truth can I accept for myself? Ask yourself, what new truth can I accept for myself? What new truth am I inviting into my journey? What new truth am I going to affirm in my journey? And the main thing about affirming, you don't just affirm it with your words, right? You affirm it with your actions as well. You affirm it daily by setting boundaries. You affirm it daily by not allowing you to treat you differently. You affirm it daily by not allowing someone else to repeat that voice of trauma. And that, I think, is so powerful, right? So sometimes you attract people into your life who will repeat that voice, because the main thing is that you're supposed to heal from it and move forward from it, right? So sometimes when you notice that a person has come into your life and they sound like that voice from your childhood, right? Then that's a point. That's how are you gonna affirm your new voice, right? So you affirm it through your actions and how you allow others to treat you, right? And write down the new voice, write down the new truth that you're receiving into your journey, write down your truth about yourself, right? And go back to it over and over and over again. So that's today's word, that's what I'm saying to you, that you don't have to receive that voice. Just because it's played over in your mind doesn't mean that it's your truth. Question it, right? And ask yourself, what new truth am I inviting? What does my higher self say about me? What does God say about me? What does the universe say about me? And invite